Okay, volume 8 of the Bible story. That's where I'm at. What book we're in. And we are at part 2, story 13, Last Things Last. So it says last things last. Okay. Arriving in the village of Bethany one day, Jesus knocked on the door of a humble home. Come in and welcome, said the bright-eyed, vigorous woman who opened the door. Vigorous. Uh, when I see this word, I thought of another movie. Movie I kind of like. Too bad. A movie. Uh, uh, you'll. It's actually it's something. Never mind. Let me get back to this. It was Martha, and she was proud and glad that the famous teacher of Galilee had come to her house to rest and eat. Mary, I can hear her calling, exciting. Mary, it's the master, hurry. Get the table laid. Fix the fire. Get the pot of beans boiling. At once the whole place was like a beehive, with Martha buzzing about at top speed doing all the things she thought should be done with such an incredible done with such an important visitor in the house. Sorry. By the by, a mixture of familiar sounds came from the kitchen. The clattering of pots and pans, the clinking of dishes, the chop, chop, chop of knife on wood led told that Martha was doing her utmost to give the master the best meal she could. Then, after a long moment of silence, Martha shouted, Mary, where are you? Mary, I need you to stir the soup. Mary. Quick footsteps followed, all the way from the kitchen to the living room. Well, of all things, cried Martha, as she caught sight of Mary sitting on the floor listening to Jesus. Turning to her guest, she said, rather testily, don't you care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. Jesus looked at her, smiling gently as usual. Martha, Martha, he said tenderly, you are worried and troubled about many things. One thing is needful. Mary has chosen the good part which shall not be taken from her. I need to remind myself of that too, especially I need to be reminded of that. Okay, okay. Let me get back to the story. I don't think this meant that Jesus did not appreciate all that Martha was doing. By no means. But he saw that, and then of course it has a picture of Martha is the one in red, and Mary's the one in the um, blue, and Jesus talking. So it has an illustration of him sitting and her and Mary listening to Jesus while Martha's running around, and then this is the scene where they're ask her to come and help me. Jeez, typical. You know. But let's get back to the story. Martha needed to learn a very important spiritual lesson. You see, Jesus was there for just one little day, perhaps for one brief hour. Martha saw in this a chance to cook and make her house all spick and span for their honored guest. But Mary saw it in her one great opportunity to talk with the Prince of the teachers. Here he was, right in her own home. For all she knew then, it would never happen again. There would always be a house to clean, dishes to wash, food to cook. But this day, this wonderful day, Jesus was here. There were so many questions she wanted to ask him about his teaching, about his kingdom. There wouldn't be time to ask them all, but while he was here, she would make the most of every precious moment in his presence. This was the good part that Mary chose. She could have chosen to sit on a kitchen stool and prepared vegetables or mixed cheese omelet, but she chose instead to sit at the Jesus's feet and learn about him while she could. Most of us need to make Mary's choice today. We are so much like Martha, rushing about at a terrible speed, cluttering and banging our way through life. Too busy to pray, too busy to read the Bible, too busy to go to church. Of course, shrink, we mustn't shirk our part of the humble, everyday duties, but let us try to put first things first and last things last, shall we? And if we choose the good part, nobody will take it away from us. They couldn't. Not if we want it bad enough. And then it has a modern day picture of a boy in his room praying at the bottom. In modern dress for 1955 anyway. And it kind of looks like he has blue jeans on. Okay. And that was the end of part 2, story 13. And that was the end of part 2. So it's time for the break, and then we'll go to our next part in volume 8, my books that probably hadn't been open in 70 and 50 years when they got read to my husband, if they were. But we'll see. Be back in a bit.